Well, hello. You guys sing
Hi,
with
good
me.
morning.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. Welcome to Onwards and Upwards. My name is Luciana, and for Tanya Friedman today, we have a fantastic show for you. It is stateside. We are talking about New York City. And joining for us for our discussion today, we have two nurses who immigrated to New York, and we have Romel and Kay. Romel, let's start with you. Tell me about your journey to the United States.
So my journey. Hello, everyone. I want to greet you. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. So my journey wasn't really easy. It's not the typical nurse. Let's go. We have all the licenses. I'm ready. I was working in a corporate environment in the Philippines before I got license, my licenses. So I'm happy. Um, the main reason why I want to go to the US is because I wanna follow my loved one. So I'm a graduate of physical therapy. I took up additional course which is nursing because at that time in 2014, um, early 2010, there's not much opportunity for physical therapists. I think that the US door is closed for physical therapists. So I have to look for other opportunity, which is nursing. So I have to take up nursing again, just so I can get to the US. It wasn't easy because I was torn between staying in the Philippines. At the time, our relationship isn't really working anymore. So there's no
It
point of going.
happens.
So there's no point of going to the US. I have a good job in the Philippines at that time. Um, but my lawyer was saying, you have the licenses. A lot of nurses are dying to go there, dying to get their visa. You have the green card. You should go. It's gonna be gone if you want. So I said, okay, let's try it out. So that's the background, why I pursued my nursing career in New York in the US.
Kay, what about you? What is your story?
My story is very not your traditional I want to go to US kind of story. It all started back when I put the wrong college course in my application. I'm supposed to go to medicine. When I have my application says nursing, so that's number one. So I said, just go ahead, pre-med. It's gonna go to nursing. Okay, I never had like really idea of going to the United States. Majority of my family are Chinese and businessmen, so for them, nursing wasn't their main first choice. It was mostly business and finance industry. So I'm one of the first family who went to healthcare. So and then after that, during my second year of nursing, everybody was saying, "Hey, we saw this new advertisement on the newspaper. Everybody's going to nursing. They're bringing to the U.S." And that was 2002. And I said, I don't know. I think I'm still going for my medicine. But as they boomed again, I said, I'm just going to keep on working, finish my college, take my board like everybody does. When you're young and single and you don't care, you're just going with the flow. Exactly. I still have no idea that I'll go to the United States, but I just took everybody's taking CGFNS. Let's take it. Everybody's studying. Let's take it. Everybody's taking English exam. Let's take it after school. And then I took a job for in Philippines in Manila for as an OR nurse. Actually, I applied for ER and they put me OR. So it's the wrong. Also, HR made it wrong again. So it was wrong after wrong after wrong. It's just like, okay, I like in the operating room and working in the Philippines 1 year into it. My auntie who used to pick up these Americans from the international airport in Manila said, "Hey, I just pick up some foreigners in NAIA in the Manila International Airport. They said they're meeting some nurses tomorrow." And I said, Auntie, I'm coming from 16 hours evening shift and night shift. I don't know if I can make it tomorrow morning. And she said, I'm going to introduce you to someone. Just bring all your documents. And coming from 16 hours, almost 24 hours awake, I just came in with I didn't know it was a job interview. So everybody was under suit. I came in with my green Chuck Taylors, my denim
Wow.
pants, and my shirt. And they started asking me personal question. When you're 21 years old, 22 years old, you just want to party. You just want to go home. Let's get this done. Question. And then they said, welcome, congratulations to Harlem Hospital. And I'm like, did you just hire me? Like literally, that was my word. Did you just hire me? Because I didn't know it was a job interview, literally.
Did this just
um
happen?
yes, it just happened. And my mom, she wasn't happy. She asked me, did you sign papers? I said, a lot of them. And where are they? I don't know. I put them there when I went to sleep. And this is it. And then she showed me, this is your contract to New York. You're going to Harlem. I said, I have no idea. I signed my life away. When you're 21, you just sign whatever without even reading. And I said, don't worry about it. It will take 2 years. I was blessed. I got my visa within 8 months and left. There
Nice.
were 150 applicants during that time in New York, in Manila. Only two of us got here because the next month it was the retrogression.
Wow. So you had
So
all of these different like energies coming at you to put you where you are, it seems like, because
it's
everything that
like that.
went wrong actually made it go right in the end. Do you feel that way?
I felt like that, and everybody said, I've come from a religious family. They say everything happens for a reason, and my mom was so worried, and she got upset with me. Why I don't feel worried? And the only thing I said, Mom, God's not gonna put you in a position you cannot handle. That's it.
Exactly.
Right?
Romel, where in New York are you? You're in New York State. Let's show on the map here where New York is exactly. So that everybody can see.
Okay.
Where in New York are you?
So I'm in Flushing, New York. I'm based in Flushing, New York because I keep on moving. I'm based in Flushing, New York. That's in Queens. Um, yeah, is the map supposed to move?
The
Okay.
map is not interactive, but so you are, there we go, there we go. So you can see that New York is uh, broken out into different areas. If you, Ramel, whenever you're talking about where you're from, if you want to go into that and kind of explain it, how it works.
Right. So if you notice the yellow area on the far right side of the map, I
The
think that's
gold.
Queens, um, including now,
Yes.
and half of the orange. Okay, so we have the JFK Airport in Queens, and we have the Long Island nearby towards the far right side. So it's some typical Asian community. It's also very near the Woodside area, which is the Filipino restaurant store community. I love it there. Not only because there's a lot of Asian foods, we also have Asian marts. Um, but that's where my friends are. When I first started in New York, I landed even before when I was trying to figure it out. I was working in pharmaceutical company and had the opportunity of going to the US. So my friends keep telling me, come over, see Flushing, see Queens. Why don't you stay here when you finally move here? So when I saw the area, it really felt like I'm in Asia, slash New Yorkish US. So I said, okay, I'm staying here. It's pretty comfortable. Um, the neighborhood is really nice. So that's where I finally, stayed, never moved anywhere else other than Flushing, New York. Um, it's
Is
very
it
near Manhattan. We have, well, the place where I'm staying in Flushing, I can take two routes going to Manhattan where I'm working. So I can take the train, and I can take the bus. I can take the 7 train, When I say the main train would be the Long Island train going to Manhattan, to Penn Station. So it's easier. And maybe we can discuss that later, correct? How to commute in New York. So
Yeah.
pretty good area.
And what about you, Kay?
So I started in New York City, like Rommel. I'm from Manhattan. Again, the job that was offered to us was in Harlem. I have no idea where Harlem was before. I only know Harlem Globetrotter. That was the only thing I know about Harlem. So it's in Manhattan. It's called the Northern Manhattan. If you see the map there where the pin is, that's exactly Manhattan. And the green in the middle of it is the Central Park. So Harlem is right on top of Central Park. And I used to live in East Side, which is it says there Upper East Side there on the left side. It's between Queens and Manhattan. That middle area there. So if you see on the TV, majority of the video movies or videos or anything like Broadway, they say that's Manhattan. It's very easy. When I landed there, I felt like I'm in Manila. So it's very urban. So buildings everywhere, people crossing the streets everywhere. Even though it says one way, you make sure that the bikes will not go hit you the other way. People cross the street even if it's red on the pedestrian. That that people are from New York City. If you see people stopping when it's a red sign on the pedestrian, they're tourists most likely. So
They're
um,
just tourists trying to take a bite of the Big Apple.
exactly. It's a very similar. If you go there, like Rommel said, he find it home. For me as the same thing for me when I landed there. I didn't feel like a homesickness because it felt like I'm in Philippines. I'm in Manila because I'm Manila girl. So this is something very similar to me. You have your restaurant open all the way to after midnight. It was not a big change. I would say if I comparing to people, if I would be going to a suburb or rural area, it might be a culture shock for me. But going to New York City from Manila wasn't a big difference, really.
That's really good to know. And I want to let everyone in our audience also know, post your questions here on our chat. Let's talk about New York through and through. It is a wonderful New York City is a wonderful city. New York State is really vast and big. So if you have any questions, please be sure to put it in the chat. We have people from all over the world watching. I see that we have Jamaica from Arlene, and Jennifer is in Georgia. Tilda is in Nigeria. Lots of people watching from all over the world. Romel, back to you. What was it like your first day of work in New York? I mean, was it in the United States, in New York? What was that like when you walked
It's
in?
um it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And I think it's if there's a thing I want to tell the nurses from the Philippines, um, you really need to be prepared. I wasn't prepared. I have to admit that. I was working before I left the Philippines. I was working in a corporate environment. I wasn't doing bedside, and then I've got thrown to a bedside setting, and that's really wild. I was lucky though that there are a few Filipino nurses on other floors where I was working at, and they're very willing to help me. Otherwise, I would have not survived. But it took me maybe a year or so before I get really acclimatized. To make long story short, I was still learning the ropes of being a nurse when I started working. So the nightmare is like getting into an internship. So it's nightmarish for me. I don't take my snacks. I didn't, as far as I remember, for 6 months I wasn't taking snacks and lunches. So I was doing morning shifts, and before I knew it, it's 3 p.m. and I have to do my notes taking. That time in 2000 and what was no sorry it was in 2008. So in 2008 we're not we don't have the computers, so we're doing manual notes taking and reporting. So it would take me another 2 hours before I get to finish my reports, my endorsements. So yeah, I was famished all the time. So when I go home, I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I just want to go back to the Philippines.
So
I
you were
wasn't
a little
prepared. That's a
lonely.
big lesson.
You weren't prepared. Kay, did you feel prepared? Or did
Oh,
you feel these feelings?
I only had 8 months to realize I'm leaving my country. So, as a single, I have no preparation at all. The only thing I prepared was I only had all, of course, my nursing documents. Aside from that, going to United States, like different, my first time to be out of the country, really, without family. And New York, I was like prepared for it in a way, like I'm prepared to party, because I would think, you're single, New York City party. So that's how I thought. But the major challenge, exactly,
Right?
right? The major challenge there is, I would definitely say, any single person would have to try New York. It will help you become a strong person, because
Right.
from Philippines, our culture is different. Coming in here, coming New York, it's very liberated. I would say liberated, and people are very outspoken and very assertive. So coming from Philippines, I'm not very assertive. I find myself sometimes being taken advantage of by my colleagues, and sometimes you're being stepped down because the language barrier is also there. In New York City, there's no English accent. It's everybody coming from different parts of the world with have different
Right.
accent. You're gonna have to adapt for people who's speaking Indian, people who's speaking African, French, Haitian. There's a lot of diversity in New York City. I would say also our surrounding New York City. And language is something that was a challenge for me. I would always say, "Can you say that, please? Can you repeat that, please?" Because my Filipino ears is not adjusted yet to the English language, and worse, it's not adjusted to international accent. So it was a really challenge for me. But as Romel said, the people are very helpful. You have to little tickle them first. They're not gonna be friendly with you right away. Let's be honest with that. Even
Tickle them. I love that.
yeah, tickle them a little, know their sweet spot. Even though Americans, like, American local here in America would go to New York, they will sometimes find it New York City as a very challenging attitude. They would say attitude, because we are a lot of New York City is like, do your business, mind your business, do the right thing. But if you cross the line,
Yeah.
you'll be in trouble. So they have a sense of, we respect you, respect what you do in your life, we respect what you believe in your life. But if you go beyond that, there will be a little trouble in there. So that's a little bit, they call it the New York attitude. It's very different from other American, part of American attitude. They said a lot of my friends who came to New York to visit, they said this is very fast paced. People doesn't even look at you. People don't even greet you. Um, yes. Sorry to say, but yes.
Well,
Ah,
that's the thing about New York. It is known as the melting pot.
right.
And what
Yeah.
the melting pot means, it's a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures and a lot of different backgrounds, all coming together in one, technically, like, small piece of land, if you
In
think
one
about
party.
it, in one party. And everybody's trying to party together. And there are those different languages, those
Yeah.
different accents. Romel, did you feel that way as well, that there were, you know a lot of different things, a lot of different people? Did
Yeah.
you have a hard time with the conversations?
Yeah. I have, but to be honest, I have to unlearn a lot of things. I have this preconceived notion about New York and about the US, because of a lot of movies I've watched about New York. I think the New York Tourism Council did really good in promoting New York in a lot of movies and a lot of series, TV series. So I have a
Mhm.
different concept than more than the reality and the real thing in New York is. So I have to unlearn some things. Having worked in a corporate setting in a global U.S. company in the Philippines, I thought I knew everything. I thought I can easily get acclimatized in the environment. I thought I'm culturally adept because I'm working in a global company. So I felt like I'm so ready. But I can totally relate. When I arrive in New York, I have to I'm saying unlearn because I have to give up some of the preconceived notions that I have. So I think the best way really is, if you're going to New York, is not to expect anything at all. You need to learn it in New York. You need to learn the values of New York people. You need to learn, because I felt like it, and it's until now, I really feel like New York is a smaller version of the whole world. As you've mentioned, it's a melting pot. A lot of races come over, so you can't really pinpoint which one is and what will really work in New York, in terms of the dominant culture, the dominant value. It's like sink or swim. You really need to learn the rope in New York while in New York, because otherwise you'll be jaded. Otherwise, you'll be expecting different things versus what is real. And yeah, you have to feel it. You need to be there.
It's that idea from the song. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Exactly, I agree
Uh,
to that. I very much agree to
but
that song.
the people are, I think a lot of people in New York is there for something. So they're not mean, they just mean business, and they're there for something. So you don't want to bother them. And same thing, you're there for me, I'm there because I wanna be a good nurse. I wanna have a good nursing career in the US. I wanna have money. So I think that's that. Um, you just need to to learn how to live there, and to learn with a lot of races and different values and with different culture. I think that's the challenge.
I'm seeing here that Tilda is asking, what is the cost of living like in New York? Kay,
Expensive.
let's Kay, describe, if you could give us an overview of your apartment
Okay.
and a range of what somebody would pay for it. Just a range.
Okay, so initially when I got to New York, I'm sponsored by our hospital. So we have, so either you go with a hospital subsidized housing, or you go with your own private. So for me, when I got there, initially I had our subsidized housing, which is a very, 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 very good deal, and you will not find it anywhere. So it was a dormitory base. They house all the EMS. The first floors were the EMS fire department, and then the second was towards upper will be like your resident doctors and your nurses. So it was a very good government subsidization housing. So we only paid 300 for a dorm.
Okay,
For a
Wow.
don't give
dorm.
people this idea. That's
I know, right?
amazing.
So again, and they raise it up. So
Wonderful.
we didn't get upset. They raise it up. They put it to 500 a month. This again, it's a government subsidized housing that was provided to government employees, and a lot of actually government hospitals, if you work with them, they will provide some of that benefit. Going outside that, I started learning the real deal of Manhattan after not paying $500 a month, free utilities included. Um, so it was now a studio apartment. Now in Manhattan, a studio apartment that by yourself alone with a kitchen there without even the washer and the dryer with it. You have to go to a public laundry. So you're looking around 1600 for a studio in Manhattan. The When you go outside Manhattan, it's going to be cheaper. Queens will be your better choice. Bronx is there, Brooklyn is there on the bottom, and you have New Jersey on the opposite side of the bridge, which is as a lot of people also live in New Jersey, they just have to cross the bridge. But again, when you do that, you have to compute. You really have to run your numbers. So being Manhattan might be beneficial if you're by yourself, but when you have kids and family, you might want to go outside Manhattan because it gets very expensive and you will need like public transportation or private transportation. For single, again, you're looking around 1600 for a studio apartment going down. If you want to look more luxury with the bed, with the washer inside, washer, when I say washer, those are your laundry machines. Inside, it's luxury. When you have laundry machine inside your apartment, laundry machine and dishwasher in New York City, that's luxury already. We barely get a laundry inside our apartment, so you will be looking around $2,000 a month for a studio with laundry machine inside. Otherwise, you will have to use your coins on your on your machine wash. You're gonna bring all your laundry. That's one thing. That's the inconvenience of living in New York City. But other people who work inside New York City and live like just across, across the bridge, which is New Jersey, they pay also tolls, which is also expensive. So there is like kind of equivalent. It's kind of equal when you live outside and then inside Manhattan.
And that's inside Manhattan. Ramel, you live right
Yeah.
Yeah.
outside of Manhattan. A
Uh,
range. What is it like for a one bedroom there?
right. But that's very thorough what she just described. But so I think I'm cheap. I live in the
Yeah.
suburb, and I designed it that way. Maybe that's why, because I never left Flushing, because I'm enjoying the cheap accommodation. So I stayed with few friends in a 1940s house. So we share all the expenses, and I'm just paying at that time in 2008. I was just paying $500 for my room, all the expense included, including electricity, water, etc. And there's somebody's preparing the food for us, so I think that's cheap. It went up to 600 to 700, 800 up until last year. It's now at 800, but that's still cheap. And you
Yeah.
can find that anywhere in New York, unless you're in a group of friends. So I think
Yeah.
that's the tip. If you have friends, or you can look for friends, you can share an apartment, you can share a house. Your life is gonna be cheaper. We don't go out to bars. We have we prepare our own drinks on Fridays and Saturdays. We cook our own food, so it's a bit cheaper. In terms of commuting, we have we have the weekly and the monthly unlimited ride for MTAs. So I think the bus is at 135, 140-ish a month. I think for weekly that's around, I'm not pretty sure now because I'm doing the monthly. Um,
So the monthly is less expensive. It's a better deal than if you did the
correct,
daily or the weekly.
correct. And the
And do
company
you,
where I'm working at, they're offering the flex, something like a flex benefit. You you can you can pay for your money. It's not taxed, but you have to declare ahead of time. They're gonna give you an MTA card, untaxed. Yeah.
and an
So
MTA card for everybody that's watching is the transit card in New
correct. It's a
York,
transit card
correct?
in New York. Correct. My friends bought their own car because they're working super remotely. Um, I think they're paying for 200 a month, if not 300, but it really depends on the insurance. If you're a new driver, I think insurance can easily go up to 100 or 200 a month,
300.
400 for you. Okay. So it's
Yes,
pretty
it
different.
depends. Yeah, it depends.
Correct. So
I want to add there, when I was a new nurse in New York City, I started doing travel nursing in my second year, third year, and I was quoted as a new driver for $300 a month for insurance.
ooh,
And my
that's a lot.
car, my actual car was just a sedan, Hyundai Elantra. It's a cheap car. It's a cheap from A to B. It was my Hyundai Elantra was less than $300, but my insurance was $300 because I was a new driver and the location. They actually base it from the location. But I want to add there, since I was working for a government company, government hospital, so they provided us with Geico. Geico is one of the top insurance here in the U.S. It means government employee insurance company. So when I learned that trick, they gave me from $300 to $180 per month. It's still high, but it's a
Yeah,
better.
but yeah.
So that's one trick there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
NG, Nig Nig. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that there. Was actually asking what does a starter monthly budget or expenses look like? So we're actually talking about that. So we got the insurance, you got the mass transit, car. Well, if you have the car, we have the gas as well. Parking. You both have had cars there. What's parking like?
So
Yeah, it's
that
near
was
the
the
car.
most mistake I ever did when I that's why I said the one of the most silly thing you will ever do when you're from New York City is to buy a car. Majority of people don't own car in New York City. The only reason why I bought a car because I started travel nursing on my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Otherwise, I will never own a car in there.
Mhm.
Because parking is very expensive. 3 hours parking in the major tourist spot could cost you about $50 already, plus taxes. So that's $50 and 3 hours of parking in major part of Manhattan. Some places, if you are lucky to find like spots where you put like not anymore coins, we swipe it because what happened there was a big robbery of coins from those
Ooh.
posts, so they cut all those
Oh.
posts. So now everything is like credit card or by app for you can look around $2 per about half an hour. Some of them have good $2 half an hour or good spots will be some places will be $3 an hour
Do
if
you
you
ever
find
go
a
and
spot.
hail a cab? Ramel, do you ever go and hail a cab? Taxi, just like you
Yeah, I
saw the
do.
yellow cab.
I do. I do that. I don't have a car, but my friends do. That's why going to Manhattan, we wouldn't be bringing cars. We would be commuting. We would be taking
Yeah.
trains. And what's different with living in Flushing in the suburb, there's spaces for free parking. If you're not in downtown, if you're not in the main um, area where there's restaurants or whatnot, it's for free. But in Manhattan, really, it's skyrocketing, and even looking for a parking alone is very difficult. It's totally difficult. So we don't bring cars to Manhattan
Yeah.
on weekends,
That's a
especially.
no-no.
No,
Well,
no, 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 no. I'm from Manhattan. I would not bring it, especially on office hours. Don't bring it. There's no parking.
Right.
But I would say the worst a lot of people would encounter, like driving in there, are they don't understand that if it's a red light, there's no turning on red in Manhattan. If they catch you, they will charge you. So Manhattan, New York City, one of the highest revenue of New York City, the entire government is parking tickets. Parking tickets, parking violations, saying that one of my cousin who visited, he just literally like put his car there on a hazard on the side and he got billed $115 for no standing. So there's a word there that's called no standing. A lot of people don't know that. They thought it was like just literally standing on the street. But actually, the meaning of no standing is actually don't put your car on an idle, even though you're inside the car. It's called standing. So that's those are a lot of confusion when people go in there and they didn't realize that because they're not from there, and they get hit for just staying there for 5 minutes, $115 bill from the traffic enforcer. Now, probably now it's 135 with inflation. So for
so
5 minutes, so you be careful. So that's why I advise don't bring your car in New York City if you have no idea how the rules go in there. But otherwise,
lesson
yeah,
learned.
public
Lesson learned.
transportation is very good. There's taxi in there, like Romel said. I also hail
Yeah.
taxi. Now with Uber having in there, Lyft is another competition. If you
Live.
want to borrow car, if you want to go outside, you can rent car there within
Mm.
the area. There's in every corner of the place you will find a rental company that you will have to pay like around, looking around $60 for the cheapest that you will find, and probably all the way up to $150 per day rental.
Right. I just want
So
to add to.
whenever, oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Ramel.
Now I want to add to that for rent a car. Sometimes they have promos. So my friends sometimes get rent a car for only for $10 if you're gonna return it in a couple or in 4 hours time. So that's pretty cheap. That's even cheaper than taking a lift or an Uber.
And then you don't have to find parking.
And you don't have to
Well,
find park.
when you are traveling, let's say not into the city, so we've learned take trains into the city or rent a car so you don't have to park. When you have you traveled around New York, Ramel? Where have you been? The
So I have a
state.
few friends in Connecticut and in New Jersey. It's pretty accessible because there are trains and there are buses. But until now, because there's a lot of buses going to New Jersey, and the train ride to Connecticut is um, by a train, which I can't really memorize which MTA is going to where. But if you go to the bus station, which is what's the name?
Port Authority.
The Port Authority.
Yeah.
You just need to go to the information and ask what bus goes to where. But you have to be mindful of the time of the trips. But if you want to go to Connecticut, then you need to go to Grand Central. And again, I can't remember which train, what time goes to what where. But these are pretty near New York, where you can travel in an hour and you'll be somewhere in Connecticut and in New Jersey. So that's pretty near. Long Island is also a nice place to go if you're in Flushing or in Queens. And then again, there are trains. You can take it from Jamaica. Um, you, there's a train station nearby in Flushing as well. So that's where our short trip goes. Going somewhere else in other states like Midwest or in Texas or in California, there are cheap planes. And I sometimes they go on sale. You can get a two-way flight for 150 or $200. So that's still pretty cheap.
And Kay, what about you? Have you done any traveling around the state of New York or around the United States? Where'd you go? What'd you see? How did you like it?
So when I was working before as a single, when I got here, as soon as Friday 3 p.m. hits, I am on the way to the bus station already. I'm not taking I don't
With a
waste my
beer.
time. Yeah, I so exactly. So when you're young, and I used to have my ex-boyfriend, my first boyfriend, from North Carolina. Actually, he was my college friend, and so he was from Durham, California. So there are accessible ways that you can do all the time. When you're in New York City, buses are very effective. All the transportation that you can use of or think of, bus, train, airplane, you can even holler somebody and just take it to a ride. But technically, New York City is the most efficient, I would say, city where you don't have to worry about your transportation. I've known a lot of people who doesn't have cars forever, who's been living there, and they're fine. They can travel. Me as a traveling nurse, I have traveled. I have went to different places, different states. Majority are New York, Northeast Coast. I've lived in Boston. I lived in Connecticut. I lived in New York City. I lived in Maryland, New
Wow.
Jersey. So so I've experienced the different lifestyle there and different ways of living. New York City is the only place where you will have the flexibility to travel outside without worrying about a car. Um, so it's easy. So again, like Rommel said, there's like a central bus station. We call it Port Authority, and all those buses can even reach to California, to Chicago, to all the way to Florida. You also have your train station, which is called the Central Terminal, Grand Central
Grand
Terminal.
Central Terminal.
Oh, if you've seen that in Madagascar, they were there. If you've seen that movie, so that's Grand Central Terminal. It's a very famous place, and that's the train station of New York City. So you have the bus, kind of the central terminal, and you have the train terminal, and then you have three different airports that you can go to. Newark is just near us, which is New Jersey part. The closest one from Manhattan will be your LaGuardia, which is I like LaGuardia better because it's a smaller airport. It's less fees and better I would say flow, and they have a new airport there now. LaGuardia Airport is very accessible. It's only about 15 minutes from from Manhattan. So if you're
And
gonna
it's
take
newly renovated.
Yes, it's very pretty. State
Ooh.
of the art, they said.
State
um,
of
yeah,
state of
so
the art. Well, to all
yeah,
of our viewers out there, if you would like to be an international nurse and live and work in the United States, Connetics USA, we have positions
yeah,
all over the United States. Go to our website and apply. It's conneticsusa.com/application, and you will be able to speak with one of our recruitment representatives, and they will hook you up with this wonderful lifestyle in New York and other places in the United States. Ramel, back to you. What do you do for fun?
What do I do
What's a
for
sat?
fun?
Yes, I know that you said that you guys like to, stay at home and make some food and drink some beer.
Right.
When you do go out for a night on the town, where do
Uh,
you go? What does it look like?
right. I was supposed to, and thank you for asking because, contrary to what people are thinking of traveling outside of New York for fun, the fun is in New York. You don't really need to go out.
exactly.
The fun is in New York. So we have, we call, I will mention my company name, Pfizer Fridays. So on Fridays, people would be like what you mentioned, people would be rushing out at by 12 p.m. Because 12 onward, and my work previously would require me to be staying until 12. But after 12, I would be thinking what I would do with the rest of my Friday because I can stay until 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. That's fine. I would just go home and sleep. I should have had my dinner. So, what I enjoy most in New York is that we have 100 and plus museums. I'm an artist and I do that on the side. So, MoMA, Museum of Modern Arts, and Met are my best friends. So in the company where I'm working at, we just need to show our IDs and we can get into this museum for free. My company is a sponsor, so we can get in for free. So that's where I spend my Fridays. Museums
You
Fridays.
can also get a yearly pass to the museums too
You
for a
can
discounted rate. Great date and
yeah,
place, right?
yeah, you can also do that. And they were saying you just need to I was told you just need to say you're gonna you're gonna donate for even for just $1 and they'll let you in. But if you don't do that, it's pretty expensive though. And this
Insider
is
tips and tricks here, right
Yeah,
there.
yep. one
right.
dollar donate.
And they have installations from time to time, so they change. It's not typical museum which is boring. You can see a lot of things from time to time. Um, Other than museum, we have the we have the Broadway in New York. So so now it's open and you can watch Michael Jackson's play. We have the best restaurants in New York. Um, we have the best parks in New York. So in New York alone, you have a lot to see and a lot to do. They're also saying we are the only state with the sea, the mountain, the lake. So you can, if you're an avid fan of nature, we have the nature. If you love watching plays, we have that in New York. If you want dining, we have too many restaurants, too many um, dishes to try in New York. Um, I can't remember which month is that. Is it May where the restaurants are open for tryouts?
Yeah,
So there's too
restaurant week.
many
Yeah,
events in New York. You can't track
Restaurant week.
them.
yeah.
So that
Oh,
there, I don't really go out of state because there's too many things to do in New
Yeah.
York unless it's
what
necessary or a friend is calling something.
The-
what about UK? What is some fun time in New York or even outside of New York? What does that look like for you and your family?
So it's it's a blast. So New York City will bring you all the best in the world. As I Romel said, it has so much to bring. You don't even need to go out. The only reason I went out because my boyfriend, my fiance, now my husband is the only reason why. Otherwise, everybody when I was in New York City, like everybody would say, "Who lives in Connecticut?" Who lives? So there's like a joke like that. Who lives in that area? Because there's nothing in there. So it was just a joke, you know. And then I eventually lived there. It was funny because I got married. um, so New York City, when I was single, as Ramo said, there's so many things you can do. Every summer New York is one of the best time that you want to go to New York because we always have every Friday. You would see me in summer stage concerts. If you go to the TV every morning, they say Good Morning America, and they will have like 7 a.m. Hey summer stage concert. Those are free for us. Free. Literally, I can be there. I've watched Bon Jovi there for free. Lady Gaga was there for free. The taxes, yes, we pay high taxes, but we get this in exchange. So those are the things that you want to have to look at. Yeah, New York City is very high tax, but then we get all the perks that we have. So I was walking in Rockefeller Center. They have a lot of free perks going to our events. They were free giving away free steak.
Oh,
So
the New York steak.
New York
yeah,
State.
so when Netflix was starting, Netflix was a startup company. They were giving away free DVDs for us. Netflix was a new company that time, so we get the hold of a lot of free stuff that people are trying because of the market in New York is so much. They want to try products, and they would bring it to New York City because of they wanted. Couple of things that I've seen there as me, I saw the the business industry in New York was crazy, really like crazy, crazy concert. You got your expo. We do attend a lot of expo there. Javits Center is one of the main international expo there. So then I dwelled into events business myself. I studied photography in New York, New York Institute of Photography. I even studied bartending, mixology course, just to see myself, you know, what are the different drinks and learn from it. And then eventually I started a events business dealing with events. So now we get passes as a photographer for free fashion week. New York Fashion Week, and you've
Nice.
seen in here. I've been a vendor for a lot of company or corporate in New York City. Majority are fashion industry there. One of my great events. Business all year time 4 times a year will be American Red Cross of Greater New York. They hold it there, so it was for fun. I did it for fun. I then realized, hey, I'm doing something for fun. A lot of people appreciate it. They hired me. Even Oprah Winfrey Network hired me
Okay, I
for
need
events.
you. Where are you
So
all this time?
so a lot of my nursing friends actually when I started they didn't see the picture of this. I said events in New York is a big thing, and then they started volunteering. Even the mom of my co-nurse, hey, I want to volunteer, can I come to you to Oprah Winfrey Network event? Yeah, sure, mom, come here. My friends were NYU. A lot of them came from LA. My friends from LA came and volunteered and helped me to do big events here. So we do a lot of expo events. We're talking about more than your nursing salary. These are the opportunity you can bring into yourself. Nursing is one way, and then you see the opportunity there that New York can bring. You can be different places if you want to.
Right.
You were talking about that your favorite time of year is for people to come in the summer. I lived in upstate New York for a little
Yeah,
while in Rochester,
Wow.
and it's very
I heard.
different from New York City. It has a lot of nature, a lot of hiking, and a lot of snow.
Yes.
Uh, but it's
I
beautiful. It's
agree.
beautiful. So, Romel, what has your weather experience been like? Let's start with right now. It's March. I have to look at my phone here. What day? March the 4th. What is it like outside? Are you freezing? Is it getting warm?
I have to tell you, I'm in the Philippines right now, so I have a deal with my manager. I have a deal with my manager. So I said I'm not gonna sign another contract if you want me to stay on winters in New York. So I should be out of New York on winters. So I was able to haggle staying in the Philippines on winters. Saying that, I was cringing when I saw the Facebook pages of my friends and yours, Kay, just recently, like, what's going on? It's like weekly thing now. Like the storm and the snow is like a weekly thing now. So it's crazy. It's knee deep sometimes, and the worst part is when they get so muddy. I don't want to step on them. Uh, so that. But as you were saying, summer, spring, and fall is pretty awesome in New York. And if only for that, I would really be retiring in New York if not for the winter. So New York is beautiful except for winters. I don't know, Kay, do you love it? I hate winters.
No, I love. I'm a photographer, so I love going to Central Park when the snow started to fall.
Nice.
I always go there. I'm not far from Central Park, where I used to live in Upper East Side. It's just like a 5 blocks away. So as soon as it goes down, there's a lot of kids in there. It was nice picture for family, really very nice. But I am Luciana. The first job I ever took as a traveling nurse was in Rochester. When
Okay, so you know
so
it.
so when I went there, as from New Yorker, I have all my nice coat, my top of the knee boots. I came in like really like fashionable, and then when
Fashion
I
Week.
went there, yeah. So that was the standard in New York City. Everybody would come in with their nice, winter clothes. But when I went to Newark, Newark is the place there, Newark, New York is people would just come in with their regular, jogging pants and just coat. And I felt like, okay, I've been living so long in New York City, I didn't realize that people look at me like, where are you going? I'm going to the hospital working. And why are you with all your nice trench coat, nice winter coat, boots, my high heel boots. That's my usual in New York. Everybody would
New
come into
Yorker.
winter, like, New York City. They would be dressed up. It's so, and they would have their work shoes in their bag. But
Yeah.
when they go to work, they have their high heels, boots, nice coat, nice scarf, and a nice hat. Um, and then I said, okay, this is just here, New York City, and you see that people, you just get a feeling. Hey, I like to dress up too. Sometimes, it's nice. And I started travel nursing and seeing different how people live outside New York City, and I said, okay, I think I like to be simple. This is expensive. But actually, winter in New York is very fun for kids. I say for very kids. If you're living in New York City, what I saw difference living outside is in New York City we don't clean. We don't have to clean the snow, which is good. The city cleans it very quick, very fast. They salt it
Effective.
very. We Exactly. As soon as it drops, they put salt, they clean it, make sure nobody gets into an accident on the street. Outside New York City, you have to clean your own. You have to shovel, you have to clean your own. And I'm like, I need to go to work, and the road is still uncleaned. And I'm like, in New York City, this will be clean already at this point. So there's our pros and cons of living in winter when it comes to New York
Right.
City and outside. Again, New York City, you don't have to worry about shoveling because the government will clean the road for you already, and quickly, very efficiently. Make sure all the subway stations are clean of snow. Nobody would fall off the stairs.
I
And
have
what
to
is?
admit
Oh,
though,
go ahead.
sorry, I have to admit though that New York is magical on the first fall of snow. So I have this
Yeah,
experience and I have to tell it because it's pretty magical. I was working on the third floor of a facility and it's near LaGuardia Airport. And my desk as a staff nurse is facing a huge door facing LaGuardia. And there was this one time. I think it's the first snow of December, if not January. So the door is open. It's wide open, and the fluff of snow started to fall, and all of the residents, you can hear them moaning, "Wow!" And it's really
yeah,
pretty awesome. It's pretty nice. And also, there was this time, one time, my friends visited us, and we were in Times Square. And if you can imagine, it's there are like cotton balls falling, and the huge LED screens in Times Square is playing. It's pretty magical, but only in the first 2 or 3 days. On the third and the fourth, where it gets muddy, get me out of New York, please. Get me out of New York.
But then you can go ice skating in Rockefeller Center. So for our
Yeah.
viewers out there, if you've ever seen, they have it in so many of the movies, they have the really big Christmas tree,
Yeah.
right? And
I,
then
I
they have
love
a
to have
skating in
wine
front
down there in the
Yeah.
restaurant watching them, but I wouldn't be skating.
of it. Kay, do you skate? Can you ice skate?
I do actually. We just skated in Bryant Park last Sunday with my daughter. I was teaching her how to do it, so it's there. All the Fun Central Park has it. Rockefeller Center has it. Bryant Park has it. It's everywhere in New York City. That's one good thing. Winter is great. Fall, you see, go to Central Park. Everything is orange. Is so pretty too. Summer, I don't want to take subway on summer.
Me too.
That's one thing you don't want. Everybody's
Why?
perspiring. Unfortunately, New York has a lot of um homeless people, and sometimes they use subway. That's the only thing what I don't like with New York City is sometimes they use subway as their shelter, and majority of these people they don't take care of themselves, and you don't want the feeling, we're all nurses, the feeling of somebody, a person who doesn't take a shower for a long time. It's not their fault, it's just because they're homeless.
Snowy.
They're homeless, they don't have their exactly. So for me, summer will be my off limits when it comes to subway. There are better options you can take there. Bus will be your better option there. But again,
But
overall New
hey,
York City experience is great.
sorry,
And you
Kay,
were
but
talking.
but but only in summers can you see people half naked in New York.
Yeah, they're in Central Park too. That's the culture there. Yes.
Sorry,
that
just for fun.
well, it's part of the party, right?
Yeah, I'm an
It's
operating room nurse. They're all naked in front of it. So we have to prep them. So I for me it's my normal routine to see naked people.
You're like, I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Well, and you were talking about, going out and ice skating and having fun. I understand, Kay, that you have kids as well. A lot of people are worried about moving to a big city, moving to this melting pot of culture, and bringing their kids. It can be something that can scare somebody. How was
Yeah.
that for you, and how did you find support and support your children through it?
So I have couple of for myself. I've told myself I'm not gonna be having raising my family in New York City. It's very challenging, because when you have a family, you have to consider number one is school. That's the first thing you will have to consider school. Where I was from, either I send my kids to private school where I was if I stayed there. So and private school there will be like Catholic school. Starting from Catholic school would be like around $12,000 a year or more. If I go like really a good private school, you're talking to me like I'm sending my kid exactly where what's his name, Tom Cruise is sending his daughter, which is in Upper East Side, and you're looking around 40,000, $60,000 a year. I have a family member who actually lives in Manhattan and they send their kids to private school, but both of them are lawyers. But when you're talking about a nurse's salary, I don't think it's financially smart to do that.
Right.
So a lot of our colleagues tend to go outside of Manhattan. Some of them they're called upstate in New York. Not really upstate, it's called Westchester, which is like 30 minutes north of Manhattan. Some of them go to Long Island, Long Island is which is like kind of east of Manhattan, also near Romel. That's near Romel. It's a more livable. So if you have family and you don't belong to the rich class, I would say you're not earning more than $400,000 a year, and it might be a little challenge going staying in New York City to raise a family. That's one thing you consider is school system. New York school system, because it's a melting pot. There's a lot of government school in there, public school. Would I say they're the best? They're not the best, honestly, but they're okay. So that's why there's a lot of supplementary schools outside. I send my kid to Kumon also. Supplement. If you're sending your child there in New York City and you have a family and you're living on a nurse's paycheck, you want to consider public school and supplement also. Like there's other religious class on the weekend and supplement them with like Kumon, Mathnasium, something like that, like after school program. You get them involved, STEM activities. So then it might be better for you also. But
You heard it
majority,
straight.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm saying New York public school is not the best. You need to supplement it, and you don't want to kill yourself working so much hard, earning that 300,000 a year, and you don't have time for your kids either. So it's a matter of you need to learn how to balance that part of when you have family. A lot of people that I know moved out, as I said, upstate Westchester, which is 30 minutes up north of Manhattan, outside New York City, and there's also Staten Island, which is part of New York City, but you have to cross the bridge or cross with a boat or a ferry, and it's commutable also. And a lot of my family also live there in Staten Island. They have good school system there too.
You heard it straight from Mama Kay. Do not fear about moving to the United States with your family. Connetics right now, if you have NCLEX, please apply. ConneticsUSA.com/application. We're here to help you achieve your American dream. And when you get to a state like New York, we're not going to leave you hanging. We're there to
Yeah.
support you, to help you through this transition in your life, as well as your family and your kids, because we do direct hire, which means that
Yeah.
you and your family can get EB3 green cards and TN visas to the United States. So everybody is together, happy, healthy, eating some wonderful New York pizza. Romel, tell me about the food. Let's start with the pizza because the New York slice. Explain what a slice is.
It's a gastronomic capital of the world. So we have different dishes, as I've mentioned. We have Indian cuisine, Italian, of course, Filipino, Chinese. Um, what else? We have the best steaks, right? So food is overflowing in New York. We were in a conversation a month ago, and we were talking about the food that we have in New York. There's just too much food. Um, there's just too
There's too
much.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I,
Exactly.
I, I would be attending a meeting and well, the company where I'm working at, and we have just too many food, and I don't know why we have too many food in New York. And if you go to a pantry, because every floor in the building where I work at, we have one or two pantries. There's just too many food being served in there. I don't know. And even in the house, we keep buying food and we keep bringing food, but there's just too much.
You will
So I
never
think
go
if you're
hungry.
single, you can save a lot of money. If you're in a work, even in the facilities where I was working before, 5 years, 10 years ago, there's just too much food. People keep bringing food. Your supervisor would be bringing food. There's just too many food. So you never get hungry in New York. But if the cost, the real cost, if you would go um, to a grocery, it's also cheaper compared to other states, I was told, or if, to any other countries. Um, and I keep comparing that because we have Costco, right? And they keep comparing that to an SNR in the Philippines. It's also almost like a Costco kind of grocery or a store. And the prices here are just rocketing. It's too much. Like a $400 cost of grocery for a weekend, that could be just $100 in Costco. So if you have a family, but what I can give as a tip, if you live in a family or in a group, you need to buy in Costco as a group. But if you're single, you don't really need to do groceries because there's too many food somewhere else, in the workplace, anywhere else. And just for fun, if you go to if you go to Bloomingdale's, which is very near my area as well, if you go to
Big
Bloomingdale's on a
department
special
store for
occasion, yeah,
shopping.
like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, whatever day it is, there would be food. There would be giving food. So there's just too many food in New York. I don't think you get hungry. And if you're living in a family, it would be cheaper because you'll be buying for the whole family. You'll be cooking for the whole family. I think that's one of the advantages in living in New York. The food is cheaper compared to the housing. I don't have the value, but Kay, I think Kay, you have that. Kay is very
Um,
thorough.
I know. Now, when I was in New York, I could easily right now with the I would say with the inflation rate right now, with our cost of food right now, I'm always in New York City anyway. I can sit down in an average restaurant and pay easily like $25 like that in a restaurant. When you have family and kids right now, our budget. We are near New York. We're not in New York City, but I work in New York City, going back and
Okay.
forth here. So my average with a family, we cook, we buy food in BJ's, which is also a wholesaler, like you said, it's a Costco kind of thing. We're spending our budget here is around 150 just for food alone, for food,
Mm,
grocery, from grocery. When you add there like per disposables like paper towel, toiletries, so you're looking around $200 budget in here per week. This is per week that you can live off with a family comfortably without buying food outside. Now, if you buy food outside with a family right now, that can easily be
yeah,
costing you for a family of four, be like around $100 easily, because New
right.
York wants you, they want New York people to tip. So that's one thing you forget about that. You forget you're paying for
Tipping.
taxes
Yeah,
and you're paying for tip, and tip here is average around 15% to 20%.
yeah,
Other places they will say, do you really have to give for tip? um
yeah,
it's a courtesy. It's a courtesy for the service. You're being served something, you give tip. If it affected your experience in that place, then yes, you give a tip. Takeout, Mm, not really, because it's the kitchen, the kitchen. Delivery, yes, because you will have to give the tip to the delivery person. So if you will have to account not only the food cost itself, but of course the added expenses to that, the taxes and the tip. So averagely you would be spending around $25 for an average. We're talking about average food here, average meal. But when you go to more luxury, I can tell you I've eaten in $125 per
yeah,
meal per person. There is some things like that also. So it's a range. It's up to you how you guys gonna budget, but is it livable on a nurse's salary? Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. I think as a tip, you need to look for the menu online. If you're going somewhere like in a particular restaurant, you can see their costs. You can
Hmm.
see how much their food is, so it would be easier. But like what Kay said, if you're going out on a night out or in a dinner with friends, you need to shell out around 130 dollars on a dinner, but that's in a really fancy restaurant. If you're working, it would be eating out like in a kiosk somewhere. You can buy food like for $10, $12, or you 15. That's pretty decent food. The Starbucks, I think we're in $1.75, if not $2.25 a drink.
$3 probably.
Now, I don't know if it's still that way, but I know you can get a big slice of New York pizza basically
Yes.
on any corner, and it's like $3.
It's good. And it's good. And it's very good.
So
Yep,
you
you
can
can do
find the
that.
inexpensive
Yeah.
food there.
Yeah.
And I was just now looking at the time, and this has been such a great conversation that we're already over time. So I want to wrap this up by one comment from each of you. Let's start with Kay here, ladies first. If you could give one piece of advice to an international nurse who is packing, getting ready to come to the United States, getting ready to go to New York, wherever in New York it may be, what is your piece of advice to them? What is the one thing that you want to make sure that they know?
So when I got here, I had zero idea. The first thing I looked for was I asked the person there, "Where's the library here?" During that time, there's no iPhone. Um, the book that I got there is How to Survive New York City or Surviving New York City. There's actually a book written like that. Surviving New York City. It will give you all the maps, the places. feedback of where to go, where you should not be going. Um, there's a lot of places you shouldn't be going there, getting lost and not staying late like that. So again, there's a book in there that's a very good resource there. If you join Facebook groups also of New York City residents, there are community also that you can use there to resource. During that time, I didn't have it, but me now moving to different places, I'm able to use that again, the book that I bought and also the Facebook community of the local residents. Those are very helpful if you need help with something. That is, and of course, you have to make sure you be assertive. If you have questions, you ask. That's the first thing you do as a nurse here in the United States. If you have questions, if you didn't understand what they said, you have to make sure that you ask them to repeat it and always verify, because as a nurse, we have accountability. It doesn't mean, oh, I thought she said that. No, you have to verify, because language is very difficult here to adjust at the first days, but then later on, you'll be fine.
Ramel, what about you? You said
I
you
think
weren't prepared. What would you say to prepare for people to be
going to New
prepared?
York is like getting out of your comfort zone and going into the war zone. Kidding. You're going there as an adult. I think you need. I would be. I would be focusing on mental health because New York can be pretty isolating. Even if you're around 100, 1,000 people walking in Fifth Avenue, you would be feeling alone. At least that's based on my experience. So I think if you're moving to New York, you should your value should be pretty solid. What I mean by that is that there are a lot of friends that I had in New York that had gone astray. They've done something really bad that, for me, it's not acceptable. So I think that your value should be solid. You know your objective in going to New York. Um, because that would be your main anchor. That should be your true north. Why are you in New York? Well, if it's for work, then it's for work. If it's bringing money back to the Philippines or saving money for your future, that would be your focus. Otherwise, all others would be noises. And just be careful with your mental health. You need to be well connected with a lot of people, even people in the Philippines, because online you can easily do that. There are also support group in the US, like Filipino groups, if you're Filipino or any other. There's I forgot the name of the group. It's an it's a group. It's a website for expats in New York that you can join. So there are a lot of activities that they do. They do meetups in groups. They go to museum. They go to bar. Whatever your interest is. So there's so many groups. You need to be connected. You can't be alone in New York because there's just too many. It's just that when you're there, your friends are also working. So for me, the challenge was I'm free on a weekend, and I don't have anybody to talk to or to be with. So just be careful with your mental health. You should know your value. You should know your true north, and get connected. You don't want to be alone in New York.
Get connected, know your true north. If you want to know more about New York and other states, check out our guidebook, Connectics USA Guidebook. Go to our website and click on resources. Download the 50 States Guidebook telling you all about New York, what to do, where to go, as well as other states in the United States. Romel and Kay, it was an absolute pleasure to speak with both of you today. I want to take one quick moment to talk a little bit more about Connetics and some initiatives that we have right now going on. So first, we have our free IELTS scholarship, an IELTS course for all of our RNs that goes along with an NCLEX scholarship that we just rolled out. Free review course for the global RNs that are selected. $1,000 referral fee going right now. We just extended it until May 1st. If you refer a nurse with NCLEX, you get $1,000. We have our podcast, Nursing in America, which I am currently the guest host, as well as our Onwards and Upwards live show. We are here every Friday at this same time, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are right here to give you some more information about living and working in the United States. You can go to our website, conneticsusa.com/application to apply now and start your American dream. Thank you again, Romel and Kay. It was so
Welcome.
wonderful to have you. We will have you on again in the very near future. And to all of our viewers, pack your bags, fulfill your American dream, onwards and upwards. Take care, everyone.